What if the boring, stale, and tasteless cup of coffee in your office gave you a 100 crore business idea? Well, that's what happened with our guest Armaan Sood and his company SleepyOwl. SleepyOwl is a new generation Indian coffee brand that is known for the most premium, authentic cup of coffee without the long process of making one. In this episode, we dive deep into 3 core insights into how Armaan built a mega D2C coffee brand.
My co-founders and I, Ajay, Ashwajit and I, the 3 of us are very, very big food and beverage fanatics. So at the point in time when we met and we were figuring out what area of business we want to start up in, we realized that this is something we're excited and passionate about and we want to explore. So we had very different habits around coffee. And that was the inkling that actually got us to start researching what's going on in the coffee space. Right? We have no background in terms of coffee farming. We started as users researching what's going on in the coffee space. And we just fell in love with what we read and learned about coffee and told ourselves that there seems to be an opportunity here. And we just jumped on that opportunity.
After he shifted to Bombay, Armaan got his first taste of office coffee and it was not a pleasant experience. This was the inception point of the coffee problem that needed to be solved.
I just moved to Bombay and after university and working at an edtech startup in an office in Bombay, I got exposed to what is called office coffee, right? And I realized that this is not tasty, right? Office coffee is not fun. And unfortunately, today, 2023, it's still not fun. Coffee is the fuel that keeps people in office, energized, working, active, caffeinated, So why not? Why don't companies invest in great coffee for their employees? But I think every time we go back to HR and admin, it becomes a question of cost, right? Like I will not spend more than 4 rupees a cup for my employees' coffee. I mean, you're going to get crap in 4 rupees a cup and then the employees also settle with it. Or what I started doing, I would go down to the nearby CCD at Fun Republic Mall and have a cup of coffee. My co-founder Ashwajit, who had quit his job in Delhi and he was living with me in Bombay while we were ideating, would choose to work out of a Starbucks. We had a beautiful cafe in Andheri, and that's where he would sit and work out of. And he was sipping his black coffee, an Americano or an iced Americano. He got me drinking black coffee with him. And that's when I discovered that there is a world beyond sugary, milky coffee. And I started enjoying what black coffee tastes like, right? And said, okay, why not more of this? Why aren't more people drinking more of this? What's going on? The next realization was that at home, what are people drinking? And it was all instant coffee that was made by Nestle and Hindustan Unilever, which is Nescafe and Brew. That's what people were consuming at home, and they had all of the market share among them for in-home consumption. The other was understanding that, we spent some time in Chikmagalur, which is where most of India's coffee is grown. All of the premium Arabica coffee is exported out because in India, there weren't enough paying customers for high quality Arabica because no one was drinking that, right? And given that 2010 to 2020 is when social media exploded, I think people in India became more aware of what's going on in the West. So we said, okay, this is at the cusp of these couple of things happening where we should be able to introduce an interesting innovation or product within the coffee category that would initially be catering to customers who are willing to explore and those who are aspirational and those who may be able to or are excited to pay a little bit more for a better quality product. It'll be small, it'll be niche, but we were excited to go after that. I think the third thing, the startup ecosystem started evolving. So as young entrepreneurs, you were like, this seems to be an opportunity. The world around you is ready to support you to do this.
That's when we actually discovered cold brew for the first time, right? And when we made cold brew for ourselves, we tried it and we said, okay, this is really fascinating as a beverage, right?
So as a user, we said, there is some gap here, there is some problem which needs to be, solved, right?
One thing led to another and we were convinced that there is some opportunity in this space.
And then we just jumped into it.
Hi Mighty Fam, and now before we get ahead, what's super interesting is that a GrowthX Capstone team literally built a growth strategy for SleepyOwl that was so realistic that they presented it to the entire startup ecosystem at the GrowthX Demo Day last year. This strategy runs literally into hundreds of pages. It's super in-depth, but because we love you, we are giving away a small portion of this exclusive document to our entire YouTube fam. In it, you'll find insights about SleepyOwl's users, in-depth market research, the industry, and the user insight behind their massive growth. The link to access it is in the comments, and it's free by the way. So happy learning. Cool. Getting back to Armaan's story.
You were talking about like ourselves as users. Like,
Correct.
like that's where the whole thing came about. What are your insights? What are your insights about Indian coffee users?
The biggest insight was that our generation, the 90s kids, grew up drinking cold coffee.
Yes.
Nescafe made it popular. So cold brew sort of lends itself to that, where you keep it in your fridge and you can make, any form of cold coffee using cold brew, and it tastes delicious.
It was clearly a me problem. So like, yeah, I'm facing this problem. I want a solution to it. And the problem was twofold. One is lack of education, right? There was no one was educating users about coffee. So what we discovered by going to Chikmagalur was that quick snapshot, coffee is a fruit. The mucilage, the cherry is removed. There's a green color bean. That bean is roasted. It's ground. It's brewed. And there are different ways to brew coffee for different grind sizes. We realize it's complicated. It's not easy for an average user to brew coffee. Most people are lazy, right? And don't go through this process. It is just the enthusiasts who go through this process.
Yeah.
Those who don't go through this process end up drinking instant coffee, which is coming from the same players and the same taste and, not of the best ingredients or quality, because they're not using, let's say, Arabica bean.
Armaan discovered that Arabica is the most premium coffee bean, and Indian brands have mostly been using Robusta beans. With this insight, they had one mission: get Indians to upgrade to a better cup of coffee. The second big problem they wanted to solve was convenience. They realized that selling beans or ground coffee to Indians would not make sense, which is where their innovation of a new cold brew packaging came in. You could just put a bag in the water, put it in the fridge overnight, and enjoy a freshly brewed cup of premium 100% Arabica coffee without putting in any work.
So these couple of things fell together, and we essentially launched as a one SKU cold brew company. Like, we were called SleepyOwl Cold Brew Coffee specifically.
But it was restricted to this, I would say, peak India 1 ka 0.1%, right, of people who already had some taste for black coffee, who were very well traveled, who were early users of Uber, early users of Netflix, Airbnb. So I think people who were early adopters or early users for any of these other apps were quite early to adopt SleepyOwl as well, right? So the first 18 months we managed to get there. Obviously, over the course of the last 7 years, we've launched in products in a lot of other categories within coffee as well, right? So to give you an example, we went from launching a black cold brew to a ready-to-drink cold brew, right? And that ready-to-drink cold brew, when we designed it and it launched in about 2018, it's very little milk, very little sugar, made with cold brew. So it's actually very light. It's patla in its consistency. It's in this beautiful glass bottle. Within the realms of Delhi and Mumbai at the time, and now Bangalore as well, there is that audience that absolutely loves it the way it is, right? Where they say, listen, this is exactly what I want. It's a black coffee with a dash of milk and sugar. It's cold brewed. They appreciate it. But as we scaled it to Punjab and to other markets, right, where we started reaching a different audience, most people pick it up expecting a cold coffee. And so for them, it was a shock. And we started getting a lot of feedback around it. So we took that feedback and we recently launched, I think 2022 summer, we launched cold coffee in its traditional form. It's creamy, it's sugary, it's thick. It's doing very, very well and it has a consumer. So we went back to the cold brew, right? And most people don't know this, and I've never spoken about it before actually. We took that cold brew and we changed the formulation. We made it slightly thicker, slightly milkier, in the hope that even if the odd person who picks it up thinking it's a cold coffee still likes it. We got brickbats and complaints from the core user of the cold brew saying, what have you changed and why have you changed it?
Yeah.
Right? And we went back to the old formulation. So we have both in the portfolio now, right? And both coexist and they both do well, and they're two different things.
With a solid cold brew product in place, SleepyOwl started to nail category expansion and increase their range of products. What started from making instant coffee the villain now became their top selling product.
But over the years, we realized that, and this happened through lots of user interviews, that even our core consumer, like SleepyOwl's core cold brew consumer, almost all households have instant coffee in their pantry.
Yes.
And we realized that this is a segment and a space that we can get into from a business sense, and there may be scope to do a better instant coffee. How about we say, okay, 100% Arabica, freeze-dried coffee, and then give it some fantastic flavors and flavorize it and premiumize it and, make it a better overall experience. And, we've seen fair bit of success even in that product range, right? Today, instant coffee is our largest selling segment. We are in the business of premiumizing. We are in the business of getting people to upgrade because we are serving a better quality product. So I think the intention is to get consumers to switch from what they're currently having to something better of higher quality.
What does it take to scale in India? Like as a D2C brand, as an F&B player, like what does it take?
As 25-year-old, non-FMCG, non-food and beverage, non-business founders, we had a very different journey of starting and scaling our organization and our company, right? As I mentioned, step by step, product by product, dheere dheere. So there was no way to start but online. Gradually, we went to, let's say, marketplaces, which is Amazon, Flipkart, so on and so forth, and then now quick commerce spaces. So essentially all digital channels, right?
Yeah.
That was our journey of scale. Today, we are omni-channel. So we're not D2C in any way or form. We have a website. It contributes 25% of our business, but that's it, right? There is Amazon, there is quick commerce, there is modern trade, there is general trade, less than 25 now, to be honest.
So let's talk numbers. Like I'm so curious. Like I want to really unfold all of it. Let's talk about AOVs.
I think AOVs, and this would only apply for the website. Your AOV is directly connected to your customer acquisition cost. And customer acquisition cost, unfortunately, is not in your control as much today. It is high, right? It is upwards of 200, 250, 300, 350, 400, depending on the category, depending on your marketing efficiency, depending on your spends, right? So given that's your customer acquisition cost for a first-time consumer, you're looking at minimum AOVs of 900 plus, right? 1,000 plus. And to be honest, the higher the AOV, the better it is for you to make money on that first order, right? Because if you're not making money on that first order where you acquire a customer, then you're highly dependent on making money if they repeat. Now, if you're dependent on making money when they repeat, the couple of issues there. One is they may love your product, but start going to another channel to buy it, which means they may not come to the website again and again. Now, why may they not come back to your website? Right? You acquired them and you not made money on the first order, let's assume, because you're selling something worth 300-400 rupees. They've come, they've tried it. You're not making money on that because of your logistics cost, your shipping cost, your payment gateway, your COD charges, the jabang, right? You're not making money on the first order. So you're hoping they keep coming back and you start making money. Why may they not come back? A, your product is not good enough. They didn't like your product. They didn't like your offering, so they don't want to come back. Second is slightly not within your control, which is logistics. Right? It took too long to come from your website, or the experience wasn't smooth enough. So that leads to friction, right? Where that customer may debate. Even if they want to order your product again, they may debate saying, "Ki, my website se nahi karna. Are they available anywhere else?" And once that starts, if they have to start searching for you in other places, they don't find you easily, which is the usual case for young startups because you're not available very widely. They look for alternatives, right? And then you lose a customer. So I think that is where the major issue is. So it's not to say that you need to be first order. Ideally, you should be first order profitable after all costs. The other thing you can do to increase AOV, right? And my glass jar today is 500 rupees. Let's say an acquisition cost of 250. I'm technically not making money, right? On first order. But what you do is you increase AOV. You do bundling, right? Where you say, okay, buy 2, buy 3 and get better prices for it.
Or something like what you have done, which is very interesting and I was going to bring it up.
Merchandise.
Yeah, I saw very interesting that, for a coffee company, there is somewhere on your website says that, get a cup or a mug, get a mug.
Coffee free.
And get a coffee free. I was like, shouldn't we get coffee and get the mug free? But it's very interesting how
there's a reason for that, right? The reason for that is because we've said this is 2 mugs, which are 1,200 rupees together. And so customer is already spending, they're seeing an ad, they say, okay, these 2 beautiful mugs, good quality, everything checks out. It's a branded mug, which means they promote the brand every time they drink out of that or remember it, right? For 1,200. So it's way above your AOV. Even if I'm acquiring for 250 with 1,200, the unit economics on that works
out. Yeah.
But the free coffee is the hook which actually gets a customer. For us, it's important that they try it. If they try it, they could come back and buy it, right? So that is the reason why we do it that way.
While all of this sounds good, like any other startup, SleepyOwl has had turbulent times.
There are constant supply chain niggles. Our raw material is out of stock. Packaging material is out of stock. You have the coffee, you want nothing to pack it in, right? Our dark roast cold brew packaging did not come on time. So we ran out of dark roast cold brew. The dark roast coffee was there, the boxes were there, but the pouch in which it goes was not there. So we said, okay, nahi hai to nahi hai, right? In COVID, we done jugards where we took the original packaging and we put a sticker on it. And we could have done it again, but I said, okay, it's a matter of a few days. Let's not go down the stickering route again. So just for anyone who's again thinking F&B, painful when it comes to compliance and, the laws and the things around food and beverage is not easy. I mean, a few near-death experiences in terms of, because you're a company where we have raised funds and we are on a growth path and, it is a cycle where you're sometimes on the edge when it comes to capital that you're trying to raise and it coming to the bank. So we've had a near-death experience there, which we've bounced back from.
SleepyOwl today has become a household name in India. They have recently launched new packaging for their premium instant coffee. They are present across 7,500 stores. They are valued at more than 100 crores. And with that, they are en route to tremendous growth.